Okay, so you know that feeling, right? You get this amazing idea, or you set this huge goal, and bam, you just have to tell someone,
Wow.
anyone.
Yeah, that immediate urge to share the excitement. It's almost physical sometimes.
It really is. But um, have you ever stopped to think if maybe, just maybe, holding back a bit could actually be smarter, more powerful,
Hmm.
especially for, people like you listening who are always trying to learn and grow, but maybe feel a bit swamped by all the online noise?
Well, that taps right into this fascinating idea from Napoleon Hill. It feels almost counterintuitive today, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
totally.
The idea that there's real strength in building things, your skills, a project, even yourself, kind of quietly,
Yeah.
away from that constant need for likes or validation.
Exactly. So let's try and tune out that buzz for a little while. We're
Mm.
diving deep into what Hill had to say about this.
Okay.
And our mission here, really, is to get our heads around why building quietly works so well. And more importantly, how you can actually start using this mindset yourself.
Yeah, moving beyond just talking about it to actually doing it, getting down to the real advantages of working with more focus and, frankly, fewer distractions.
Right. So let's start at the beginning. Why do we feel that pull to share everything right away? And what are the maybe hidden downsides?
Well, the obvious part is that initial rush, isn't it? You
Hmm.
announce something and people react, you get encouragement, maybe some attaboys. It feels good. It feels like you're already on your way.
It does feel like progress. But here's the twist Hill points out, and it's pretty sharp. That early praise, that dopamine hit,
Yeah.
it can actually be a bit of a trap. It can sort of satisfy your brain prematurely. Like
Yeah.
you get the reward before you've actually put in the really tough yards.
Ah, okay. So the brain checks the box too soon.
Kind of. It's
Yeah.
like getting the applause before the performance is even over. The brain thinks, job done, or at least good start. Feels like I've achieved something.
And that makes perfect sense from a, brain efficiency
Yeah.
standpoint. Why push hard if you've already got the positive feedback? Hill uses this great analogy like taking a seed out of the ground before it's properly rooted.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, you expose it too early and it's just vulnerable to everything. Doubt, criticism, even just drying out.
That really paints a picture. And have you ever felt that yourself? You're fired up about a new project, tell everyone,
Hmm.
and then somehow the energy just diffuses, like it leaks out
Yeah.
instead of fueling the actual work.
Absolutely. It's like the announcement becomes the event rather than the long haul of actually creating the thing.
So it's less about the feedback itself and more about our interpretation of it almost signaling completion.
That seems to be a key part of it. And that leads straight into another issue. The weight of what other people think.
Ah, the expectations.
Exactly. Once it's public knowledge, you're not just building for yourself anymore, are you?
No, you've got an audience.
An audience with opinions, timelines, maybe even doubts you hadn't considered. You can start tweaking things, not because it serves your vision, but to try and meet their expectations, or what you think their expectations are.
Yeah, it's like you start performing success instead of building it. The original mission can get blurry.
Right. You hear an offhand comment, and suddenly you're questioning your whole approach. Or you see someone else's shiny Instagram post about their project.
Oh, the comparison trap. We'll
Mhm.
definitely need to talk about that one.
Yeah. But Hill really emphasizes the freedom you get when you work in silence. He says something like, there is no audience, there is no pressure, there is only progress.
That hits hard. Just pure focus.
It allows you to stay connected to your why, the real reason you started, undistorted. Which brings up a good question for you listening.
Hmm.
How much energy have you maybe sunk into looking the part rather than actually becoming the part?
Oof. Yeah, that's one to sit with. And in this age of constant sharing, this idea of privacy, it feels different. Not like hiding, but like a strategy, a superpower
Yeah.
almost.
That's a great way to frame it. Hill suggests that holding some things back actually protects them, shields them from judgment, doubt, distractions, all that external noise.
So it gives you room to actually evolve, to figure things out without commentary.
Precisely. It shifts the focus inward. You can stumble, pivot, learn without feeling like you're failing publicly. Hill's analogy of the lion is perfect here. It doesn't need to roar constantly to prove it's powerful. Its presence is enough.
Right. The power is inherent, not performed.
Yeah.
And maybe for you listening, if you sometimes feel like you're plugging away unnoticed, maybe that's not a weakness. Maybe it's a protected space. Your power is building up unseen.
Exactly. All that energy you didn't spend on explaining or defending, it's conserved. And you can pour it directly into the work.
The building itself.
Yeah. Hill really contrasts that energy drain of seeking validation with the sheer power of just executing, doing the work.
Because at the end of the day, the results speak for themselves, right?
Right.
Louder than any announcement ever could.
Absolutely, which leads to that self-check. Am I doing this for the validation or am I doing it for the mastery?
Just such different drivers. One's external, one's internal.
And mastery almost always involves those long stretches of quiet, focused effort, often way outside the spotlight,
Hmm.
when the results are finally there, solid and undeniable. Well, you don't need to explain much, do you? The work does the talking.
Okay, so this ties into something else you mentioned, that comparison trap. It feels almost unavoidable today.
It really does, and Hill's ideas are super relevant here.
Yeah.
We're just swimming in curated feeds, right? Everyone's highlight reel, perfectly edited.
Yeah, the shiny versions.
And we inevitably compare that polished image to our own, messy behind-the-scenes reality, our day one struggles versus their year five success.
It's not even a fair fight. You're comparing your rough draft to their published book.
Exactly. And it's so easy to feel inadequate or like you're
Yeah.
falling behind. It can really suck the joy out of your own journey and even breed resentment.
So how do we fight that? How do you stay in your own lane when everyone else seems to be speeding past in theirs?
Well, combining Hill's timeless advice with what we know now, a few things stand out. First, focus hard on your own progress. Are you better or further along than you were last month? Measure against yourself.
Okay, internal benchmark.
Second, actively practice gratitude. What do you already have? What progress have you made? It shifts the focus from lack to abundance.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And third, maybe the hardest one, be really intentional about limiting your exposure to whatever triggers that comparison reflex. Maybe unfollow certain accounts or just spend less time scrolling.
Curate your input, basically. Define what success looks like for you.
That's the core of it. Define your own game, your own metrics. And this brings us back to that idea of inner transformation happening quietly.
Yeah, the real growth often isn't glamorous, is it? It's the steady, unseen work.
And being okay with that, being able to push forward without needing constant applause, that's a huge sign of strength. Like that line again, it gets stronger in the hunt, not by telling everyone about the hunt.
Hmm. And Hill talks about the internal shifts, right? Things changing inside you before anyone notices on the outside. Your mindset, your confidence.
Your whole posture, maybe, the way you carry yourself, your inner voice changes. It's a deep, fundamental shift.
And the world might not catch on right away.
Often doesn't. Hill suggests a real sign of profound change is when you look back and barely recognize your old self. That's when you know the quiet work paid off.
Wow. Okay, so doing all this quiet building, this internal work, it takes something crucial.
Energy. Absolutely. It's the fuel.
And Hill stresses protecting that energy, right?
Uh,
Like guarding a precious resource.
Fiercely. It means setting boundaries, saying no more often, probably.
No to what, though? What drains it?
Well, it could be anything. Energy vampire people, pointless arguments online, endless doom scrolling, gossip circles, comparing yourself constantly on social media.
Right, all those little leaks.
You have to start asking yourself, maybe constantly, does this add to my energy or does it take away? Be honest about it.
That's a powerful filter. Becoming super intentional about what you let into your mental space.
Treat your mind like a temple, Hill would probably say. Be selective. Protect it. And definitely don't waste energy trying to explain yourself to people who just aren't willing to really listen.
Okay, so protect the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And this connects to another interesting angle. The power of being underestimated.
Yes. Building quietly often means you fly under the radar for a while.
Which sounds like a disadvantage, but maybe isn't.
It can be a huge advantage. You avoid a lot of the early scrutiny, the unsolicited advice, maybe even attempts to derail you, consciously or unconsciously. While others are busy making noise, you're making actual progress.
Playing the long game. Focused on the outcome, not the optics.
Exactly. Knowing that consistent, quiet effort builds momentum. And when the results finally show up,
They speak for themselves. No hype needed.
the work becomes undeniable. It silences the doubts.
Oh.
So the focus stays on doing the work even when no one's watching or cheering.
And sustaining that kind of effort, especially when it's quiet, that requires something else Hill emphasizes. Two things, actually.
Let me guess. Obsession and discipline.
You got it. He says it's not passive. You need that burning desire, that almost obsessive focus.
The fire.
Yeah, the fire. But you also need the structure, the routine, the showing up even when you don't feel like it.
The discipline. That's the framework that channels the fire into something productive. It's about consistency, day in, day out, regardless of mood swings or inspiration levels.
And he believed that when discipline becomes part of who you are, like a habit,
It stops feeling like a struggle. It's just what you do.
right? And that discipline, just like the building itself, is often forged in silence. In those moments, you choose to do the work instead of something easier.
Exactly. It's build brick by quiet brick.
If this whole idea resonates with you, this concept of building strength quietly, finding power away from the noise, really digging into these insights from Napoleon Hill,
And if you're getting value from this deep dive format,
yeah, then we'd love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
we explore more ideas like this in depth over there. And honestly, your support really helps us keep creating these kinds of conversations.
Okay, so pulling it all together. We've talked about why shouting your goals from the rooftops first might actually slow you down because of that premature validation.
Right. And the burden of expectations, how it can distort your mission compared to the freedom and focus you get working quietly.
We hit on privacy as a strategy, a way to protect your energy and your process in this super noisy world.
Mm-hmm. Contrasting just announcing things versus actually executing and letting the results be the statement. And crucially, how to sidestep that nasty comparison thief.
Yeah, and the idea that real, deep change often happens under the radar without applause, that needing validation is different from building strength.
And protecting your energy. Being ruthless about boundaries, plus the hidden advantage of maybe being underestimated while you're busy building.
And finally, that powerful combo, the passion, the obsession, driving you forward.
Channeled by the structure, the consistency of unwavering discipline. Built quietly.
So here's something to think about.
Hmm.
What could you really build? What could you become if you deliberately shifted some of that energy you normally put outward, inward? Focus purely on the craft, on the process. What would the sound of your results eventually be like?
Remember, what we're trying to do here is give you a concentrated dose of these powerful ideas, a shortcut to understanding without getting lost in the weeds. Hopefully, it sparks something for your own growth.
So go on, go build quietly.
Yeah.
Your future self is definitely going to thank you.